Okay, these are from China. So we'll just do a quick test, and these are going to replace the ones that are on the bike already, which are ones I fitted to replace the originals that weren't working, but I don't like them, so these are a tiny bit shorter, and I just think more in keeping with the bike. This one came like this. It's meant to be one stalk, obviously glued. The glue's come on, it's stuck. So a little bit of super glue, it'll be as good as gold. They'll do the job. Tricky to get a spatter in here, oddly. Get it started. One out. Number two. Number three. Last one. So I think these LEDs look far better than the bulb indicators on the right. So I'm going to get those fitted. I'm waiting for a couple of resistors to turn up, because if you put LED indicators on a vehicle, in this case a bike, they're going to flash too fast, because they draw far less power, and that extra power that's available to them causes the relay to flash too fast. So you have to wire up a resistor, one per pair, in parallel, and that will draw some of the power away, and that will slow the flash rate down. So I'm not an expert in this, it might be a little hit and miss, but I've got a couple of resistors on order, and we'll see how we get on with that. Before I go putting all this back together, I'm going to take that binnacle off, and I'm going to take the dish off and the speedo, and they're going to get spray painted black. And I think also I'm going to put a couple of rubber boots around them forks. It's just dechroming everything really. Not sure what I want to do with the handlebars. I think I probably want to change those mirrors again, and the grips. Which one's the one we want on that one? Yeah, absolute mountain of rewiring to do on this. We'll just tidy in the wiring up. Not to mention, I've got to fit what I've calculated to be 3 of those resistors each on each side of this. Okay. Right. think that'll do for that side. Flipping massive wires in. I'm just on one side, and I've still got to get 3 of those resistors in. Right, okay, feels like it's taking forever. So let me just show. So I think they look a lot better, those indicators, because they perhaps are a little bit more in keeping with you know, kind of a rat bike, really. I think they look a lot nicer, and I'm really pleased with the light I fitted. So just remembering this is a Yamaha Virago, it just doesn't look like a Yamaha Virago. And that light that I fitted is in the same sort of similar position the original would have been in, but that isn't the original Yamaha light, that's of a Kawasaki ER500. It looks a lot better than the Yamaha version anyway. And so now we've got the indicators on there and over there on the front. We just need to sort all the wiring out, coupled with sorting out the side mounted plate. So it's just an absolute nest of wires here. You've got, so that's the indicator this side. All of that lot is what feeds the rear light, tail light, stop light and indicators, and of course that then continues down to there and along to here, where I rerouted it because I was originally going to put a light, all of the lights on the plate, until I decided to resight it back top and centre, which I think is far better because I've got a proper decent full-size light. So all of the wires from there down will just go. That'll obviously just be cut right back and plugged into there, and then you've got the feed for the indicators on the other side. That'll cut right down. You've got those wires there, that'll cut right down, so there'll be virtually nothing left by the time I've trimmed it all and buttoned it all in. So there'll be certainly, I mean, all that's completely going, so there's so that'll all be neat and out of the way. So the only little sort of thing I've got to figure out is how I get into play these things, because what I don't want to be doing is introducing another nest of wires. And I've bought 4 of these resistors to fit to the LED indicators, thinking I'd only need 2, and I bought too many because I didn't realise it was 2 in a pack, so I bought 2 packs and ended up with 4. And then I put a resistor on each side when I was testing the lights, and then realised they were still flashing too fast. So I introduced another 2, thinking, well, that was a good job I had some extra, and then it slowed the flash rate down, but not slow enough. And so I bought 2 more. In fact, I've still got another 2 because I ordered wrong again. And when you put 3 on each side, it slows the flash rate down to 10. Let me get this right, 16 flashes in 10 seconds, which is the best way to try and time it, really, over 10 seconds. So that's about 1.5 flashes per second, and I think the regulation is between 1 and 2 flashes a second, and it is bang in the middle of that requirement, and it looks absolutely right. So I need 3 of these resistors each side, but what I don't need is to introduce an absolute nest of wires. So I'm going to have to trim all of this up. You don't need all that wire. It's, you know, it's just, there you go. So yeah, let me show you how it works using one of them, and then you'll sort of see how, you know, the other 2 will also get introduced. Right, so there you go, make a bit of a clear path. So it's not complicated. All you're doing is you're adding ballast to the circuit. So because you've got too much power going to the LED, because they don't use a lot of power, the relay flashes at an incredibly fast rate, and so you introduce ballast in the form of a resistor in parallel. So this essentially bridges the circuit. Okay, so if you've got your positive feed coming through here and then up to the positive side of the LED, and then obviously runs through the light through to the negative and back out, all this is doing is bridging across. That's the simplest way to look at it. You can just see it's bridging across. So you've got black, black, red, red up to the terminals there. That was one, and then black, black, red, red up to to the terminals there. That's the other one. So you've simply got current passing up through the live all the way up to the positive side of the LED, through to complete the circuit all the way out through the negative, and essentially 1, 2 resistors bridging across the circuit. And of course then you can just add a third one to the back there, so you'd have another one bridging across there and then continuing the the live and the negative feeds. So but what you end up with, of course, is however you arrange it with that amount of wire there is just another massive wire each side. So essentially what I've got to do is to sort of cut all these wires down really, so you just get rid of most of that wire and then hopefully end up with sort of three neat resistors, sort of neatly tucked away under the bike somewhere and sort of fitted in place. The only problem is these get red hot. Now you hear online people sort of saying, yeah, but they're not like the lights that are on all the time, they're just sort of flashing briefly. Kind of yes and no. If they flash 10 times while you're completing a maneuver, they're going to get very hot and then cool down very, very quickly. As long as they're not sort of touching anything that doesn't want to be hot, that's absolutely fine. But if you're sat at a set of traffic lights, that could be a problem. So you've got to factor in that they could be on for a couple of minutes getting red hot, and they do get hot. So it might be worth perhaps sort of looking into and investigating a different type of relay that is more designed for LED lights, because this is kind of a bit of a workaround literally, but the more I look at it, the more I think it's a bit of a cluster of problems. So yeah, not too sure, might have to do a bit more digging on that. Okay, so let's just start to demonstrate. If I just connect the indicators back up, so the front's already connected and daisy now so is the back. These bullet connectors are not particularly compatible, so if I just switch the indicators on, there you go, that is just flashing like a crazy thing and you can hear the relay going mental. You need to put some ballast on, so let's try one. If you think of it as just adding a piece of wire into the feed and the common with that resistor bridging across it, it's probably the easiest way to describe it. Let's just pop that across, and that across. So you're just adding it into the circuit. Connect there and there. So this is one resistor. Now you can see something like a flash, but that's that's not a useful flash and it wouldn't be legal. So what we'll do is we'll just disconnect the indicator again. So once again, essentially that is our live and our common feed, if you like. So if we take another ballast and we just introduce an extra length of wire with the resistor bridging across it, okay, so you're just adding an extra piece on, 1, 2, and then you take the continuing wires and you just connect up the indicator light, and then we switch them on again. There you go. Now that's not too bad, and that's with two resistors, so that might be okay. That might be okay. I think if you count those, it might be a tad fast, but probably would be within the acceptable range. But just for the sake of demonstration, what we will do is and then there you go. So you see that's a lot slower, and when you measure that, that should be exactly 16 flashes in 10 seconds, which is about 1.5 a second. I dare say with 2 resistors it's probably 2 flashes a second, which is okay, but I think that flash rate is just bang on. But the problem we have, of course, is that we just added another mass of wires. I think that's a pretty good job, to be fair. There you go. So this is the sort of mess that everything's in now. So you've got the main, all the wires for the tail light, brake light are down here, and they need to be up here, so they all need rerouting. The massive wires that you've got here for just them 3 resistors needs cutting right down, and then that needs tucking in, and the same on the other side. And the number plate needs fitting, and even though I'm going to reroute all the power there to back to the top of the back of the bike for the light, I still need to keep a feed for the number plate illuminator bulb when it goes on there. Oh boy, oh boy. There you go. So you just created a smaller version of this cluster of wires here. So feed in there up to the LED, round to common, back to the ground of the bike. And of course you have now just got 3 resistors all bridging across at one point, which does make that joint a little bit weak. So just make sure when you put the bullet connector on, should just slip on there nice and easily. So obviously crimp that on, but put a bit of heat shrink from the bullet connector all the way back, so it just holds everything nice and tight. Okay, and then that's that job done. It's a shame. If I'd have had different colour bullet connectors, I could have colour coordinate them, but you can see which wire's black and which wire's red anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Except you do need to know which one's black and which one's red in terms of the wire itself, because if you put a live feed through here and then connect it to the common of the LED instead of the live side of the LED, it just won't work, because LEDs is a bit of a giveaway in their name. Light emitting diode, it's a diode, power will only pass through it one way, so just keep an eye on the actual which way the power's going in. If it doesn't work, you just switch the wires over, obviously. There you go, all done, couple of minutes, nothing to it. These literally took about 10 minutes each tops, really. Just really very easy to make, so, or, you know, alter, I should say, not make. So let's carry on. Right, there you go. We've massively reduced the wiring over this side now. All I've got is the feed for the brake light and tail light. So I've taken all of the wiring that was down along the swing arm away, and I've just connected up the by far reduced amount of wiring that was the 3 resistors, and that's literally all we've got this side. And then the indicator wires I've trailed across to the other side of the bike as well. So literally I'm just going to get this all tucked up underneath there and start getting stuff plugged in. I'm going to have to put some new connectors on the indicator wires to fit these male bullet connectors, but it's nearly done. There you go, nearly done. I've got the 2 triple resistor packs fitted under the rear cover, which is also the bracket for the rear tail and brake light. So they're neatly tucked away under there. Fitted new bullet connectors to the indicators so that they fit into the females on the resistor packs. I think it's the other way round anyway, either way, so it's all new. And yes, that's all tucked up and out of the way, and there's literally no wiring left anywhere now, which is very neat and tidy. I'm very pleased with that. So I've just got these 2 wires there which feed the tail light and brake light, and I just need to go over to the bench and put some male connectors on the wires at that end, and then we can just get that little job finished off. But the indicators and rear lights all working. There you go, all cut to length and connected up. So let's go and get this back on. I should completely finish that, just the number plate to go. I just want to feed them up through there and then they won't dangle. Go. And this might be a tiny bit fiddly because I've got to work in the dark now, but I can see where the common is that I need. In you go, there you go, perfect. And then it's just red to yellow, green to blue, all boys together, girls together, and we're on. Just going to get this buttoned up and then I'll just put do one last little tidy of those particular wires afterwards. So there you go, that was the massive wire that's I've taken out that was causing that massive cluster, a network of wiring that was, you know, we just needed to reduce and eradicate. So that's all done now and it's all finished. So just need to sort out the number plate, take a little spur off for the number plate illuminator. So I'm going to crack on and do that now. There you go, number plate all on. That didn't take a lot, I just had to get it straight and drill it, and that's all fine. So with the lights all done, the last piece of the puzzle is just getting the number plate illuminator bulbs on there. But I do need a feed, because where I've stripped out all the wiring to finish this job off, Of course I've got no wire now running down back to the number plate, so what I've got is a piece of 3/4 which I'm going to strip out. Anyway, I'm going to feed that into the tail light bulb, and obviously I'll need to earth it as well, so I'll take a spur off the connector to the tail light. I'll run it down and back here, and then I'll possibly just then earth the lights back to the frame. That's probably going to be the easiest thing to do anyway. So next little job to get on with. I've just pulled the 2 rear light wires down, the brake and the tail, so I've taken the yellow and red apart. The tail light's still on, so I know it's the blue and green. That's the one that's actually feeding the tail light. The red and yellow must be the brake light. So I need to take a spur off the blue and green. There you go. So I think I shall use the blue wire. Should be the right length. Right, there you go. So that's going to be my live feed to the number plate lights. So they're the 2 LED number plate lights. So obviously they are also polarity sensitive, so I've got to make sure I connect them up the right way or they won't come on. So I'm just going to go ahead and strip that and then join it to the blue live feed to the tail light. Oh, terrible light under it. Right, anyway, you can see where I've pulled the blue and the green down. So the green is the one that goes to the tail light, and the blue is what feeds it. So I'm just going to splice in the bit we've just stripped back, and then we should be good to go. Just need to put a female connector on that, join them back up, stuff them back in, route this around the swing arm, and we should have some power to the number plate. This is very fiddly. So we're just going to join them. Yeah, that should do it. Connect them back up. There you go. So that's our live feed spur off of the tail light. To be fair, a wire this thin really does need a bit of weather protection, and it just dumbs it down a bit in terms of looking a bit too brightly coloured. So it's tricky to feed through now. Actually, it's caught on just come through the end, so pull that through. Okay, right, so I just need to basically strap this around and cable tie it into place. One can go there. Nothing to stop these from moving, but they've got no reason to move really. There's no force on them. There you go. I've got plenty of length there now to meet the number plate. So I'll just leave that like that for a minute and just tidy this up. Snip those bits off. So what I've done, I've fastened it to the swing arm there. I've routed it round here, so that's all firmly in place. And up around here, I'm going to poke it through that hole. I just need to shrink this bit of heat shrink here, just so it's thin enough to go through. And then that's all firmly held in place. I will put another tie on there. And then this blue wire will serve the number plate illuminators. Okay, bought a new number plate light. So this is actually number 3. I don't think I even showed you the first one. The bullet lights that I've just shown you are just no good. The wiring is too thin, you can't get a good contact on them, and they just stopped working whilst I was trying to fit them up. So you saw them working there, but when I was trying to permanently solder them in, they stopped completely. I think the connectors inside came off, so they were rubbish. So this one's just a single unit. It's got 4 LEDs inside. Far better grade of, if you can see, far better grade of wire. So this will do the job. So the two just hole either side should just fit straight onto the bracket that I made out of that perforated mild steel, and then that'll get that little job finished, and then we can just move on and get the last little bits done before the MOT. I think I just got the Queen in the ear. A couple of washers made out of pennies, so should be just the right size. Perfect. There you go. Cool. Definitely a much more solid connection. There you go. Right, let's get this all connected up then. You've got the live feed there. I'm just going to bullet connect this, and then I can just obviously plug and unplug those a little bit more easily if you need to take lights off and number plates off and things like that. Otherwise things are left dangling, aren't they? And with regards to the earth, I'm just going to feed that round there, and then I'm just going to attach it directly to this bracket here, so it's straight to ground, and that should be nice and solid. Okay, that's the live feed connector done. Really must get a better pair of wire strippers. Connect those up. I'll just have to tidy these around. I'll just tuck it behind the bracket. It should hold that nicely. Right. So actually, I'm using a blade connector. A ring connector would probably be better, but then, having said that, it makes it easier to get my nut and bolt in without trying to hold the connector on as well. So, you know, you win, you lose, don't you? Or you lose, you win. So we need 2 pairs of hands. Ridiculous, isn't it? I'm holding the nut. Hang on. Holding the nut at the back. I'm holding the blade connector with my thumb and I'm holding the ratchet with my other hand, so there we go. That should do that. Oh, I'm struggling to get in there with the ratchet. It's stupid. Yeah, so because I've made various brackets for this number plate and the indicators and things like that, and I've chopped bits off, and you know, I'm sure there's going to be some little bits that the MOT tester is going to want to just make sure aren't falling foul of any, you know, regulations, safety. I mean, that's quite sharp there, so yeah. Anyways, so I'll do a little bit of snagging. I can go around and get all these bits back off again and file them down and put them back, can't I? So there you go, and yeah, it all works. Nice. That's the number plate finished.